All right, number 29, I wanted to work it just because you may be kind of wondering, well, what am I supposed to do with this? Um, the chain rule is a pretty easy idea. It's easy in a concept, and the hard part of it is working the algebra out usually. What you do with the chain rule is you say, okay, I got this complicated function inside. That's okay. Let me call that whole thing u. So if I take the derivative, what I have now is I have u squared, and the chain rule says if I call that u, then what I got to do is just represent it as u squared, but then I got to take the derivative of u with respect to x. X is my variable, and I just substituted with a variable called u, okay? So now if I'm going to do that, the derivative actually I have to take the derivative of u squared with respect to x. That would be 2u. Well, u is just all that mess inside, right? X plus 5 over x squared plus 2. Now, that's not all of it. They'll also have to take the derivative of u with respect to x. So my answer also has to have this du dx. So let's go do that now. I'm going to show that in a different color. Now, du dx, if you look at what u is, u inside is a fraction and would have to use the quotient property. And if you think of the quotient property, it is, remember, it's low d high minus high d low over low squared. Both the top and the bottom start with low. So I'm going to put the low squared in first. That would be x squared plus 2 squared. I'm sorry, x squared plus 2, but then we got to square the bottom, so it would be squared. Remember, we're just looking at what's inside. We're not considering the square that's on the outside of the parentheses. Wish I really hadn't closed that parentheses because we know the top part's the long part. So it's low, okay, on the top, it's low d high minus high d low. So that means take the low or the function from the denominator and multiply it by the derivative of the function on the top. Well, the derivative, the function on the top is x plus 5. So the derivative would just be 1 because it's 1x, so you just take the constant off. And then we subtract high, this is why I wish I hadn't put that parentheses there. The high function, or the one on top, is x plus 5 in the numerator. And the derivative of the denominator is what comes next, and that would just be 2x. Okay, so my derivative is all this stuff. Now the parentheses, this fraction goes all the way across there, and pretend that squiggle thing has disappeared. So here's my whole derivative. It's 2. Now if you look on the bottom, let's kind of look at the bottom. We have x squared plus 2, and then 2 copies of x squared plus 2. That's going to make 3 copies of x squared plus 2, so I can write that as x squared plus 2 cubed. The top part's what we're going to need to simplify. Let me write that in black. I got to simplify all that mess. So it's x plus 5 times all this stuff in parentheses. Let's multiply it out and see if we can simplify some stuff. X squared plus 2 times 1 is just x squared plus 2, so that part went well. But now I've got minus all this x plus 5 times 2x. Let me write that as a plus and distribute a negative 2x times x plus 5. Negative 2x times x would be negative 2x squared, and negative 2x times 5 would be negative 10x. Okay, so I got to simplify all this now. That's 2 times x plus 5. X squared minus 2x squared would be negative x squared. So I took that term and combined them. I'm working on that inside parentheses now. Then I've got minus 10x plus 2 all over x squared plus 2 cubed. So the idea of what to do wasn't hard, but we still got some simplifying to do. Let's see. I'm going to go ahead and distribute the 2 times the x plus 5, and that means it's going to be 2x plus 10. And I got to distribute that across negative x squared minus 10x plus 2. Okay, and I've still got this x squared plus 2 cubed. So here's why people say algebra is the bane of calculus. 2x times negative x squared would be a negative 2x cubed. 2x times negative 10x would be minus 20x squared. And 2x times 2 is 4x. Now distribute your 10. 10 times negative x squared would be minus 10x squared. 10 times negative 10x would be minus 100x. And then 10 times 2 is 20. Okay, so that's all over x squared plus 2 cubed. You might always check the answer key before you start doing all this. If they don't multiply it out, you're free not to also. I have a feeling they're going to make you do all of it. It's really good for your algebra skills anyway. You really get good at algebra and calculus. All right, so I have negative 2x cubed. And I've got negative 20x squared minus 10x squared. That's going to be minus 30x squared. So that's gone, that's gone, that's gone. 4x minus 100x is minus 96x. Okay, and then plus 20 over x squared plus 2. And I have a feeling what's considered polite in math is not to lead with the negative. So they may have factored out the negative. And remember, that's going to change the sign on everything on the inside now. You still got your x squared plus 2 cubed on the bottom, but it would be, if you factor out the negative sign, I'm going to try to write it up here so I can see if I can get everything in there. It would be positive 2x squared plus, positive 2x cubed plus 30x squared. Okay, and you're just going to have to listen because it's not going to fit. Plus 96x. Minus 20. That would probably be how I would guess they would write it in the answer key.